everybody, and welcome to the InCntrl episode 25. And today I am joined by Michael on my right.
I'm back in the building, bruh.
And back again, Daniel.
Yeah, becoming a regular.
Yeah. No, he's
glasses.
He's part of us now. Yeah, so how have you guys been? Alright?
Been good, man. Been good. Just, just trying to clear up some of the cache. Play some of the games, Lots of World of Warcraft, Trying to...
Are you still highly ranked in Dota?
Oh, yeah.
When they reset.
No. Not just MMR, just in terms of, just like legend. In terms of,
okay.
I just hit 5,000 comments a few weeks ago.
Okay, no, he is actually pretty good in Dota. Like when it comes to people commending him during gameplay, he's way more impressive. I've played Dota like literally 10 times, many years more than him. Yeah. He has got 10 times more comments than I have ever gotten. Doesn't mean I'm bad.
Yeah, serious boy. We need to show some game. We need to show some fans some of your gameplay as well.
Yeah, so it seems he plays really well with people. Like really, really well. I'm his mid trainer.
Yeah.
Trains him.
He got me in.
That's awesome. And then Daniel, I heard that you have moved on to the mobile scene.
Yes, taboo.
Yeah. No, but before we even get deep into that, this is the IncntrolGaming podcast where we always talk about video games and just a lot of nerdy stuff, and it's usually the same guys. And here we are. So I'm glad that you're watching. And today we're going to be talking about things a little bit more different. I mean, we usually focus on PlayStation and Xbox and stuff like that. But today we're thinking of focusing more on the general side of mobile video games and also on the esports side and just how games have just been connected over time. And I think it's also important for us to cover that because, I mean, it's been super, super influential, even through like the games that we've been playing on our consoles.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? I mean,
the effects.
It all originated from PC and how streaming just broke in. But then now we need to talk about it. Like we need to see the field, field of battle now.
Yeah. I mean, I'll even start like if you just look at mobile, like what we have now with smartphones, like. We still have to get over the idea that back then you're like a phone can only play Snake, play Candy Crush. But the power you now have in the processors and the RAM on these smartphones, you're starting to look at visuals of games where you're like, yo, this is amazing. This is
console level.
This is console level, gaming on on the go. So so definitely, I'm sure Daniel will tell us more about the space currently.
What are you playing on mobile right now?
All right, so Surprisingly, I was very anti-mobile. Like this time last year, I've never touched one of these games. No, trash. But unfortunately, Zesco can humble a man. I got a new laptop. Laptop got fried. I've played almost everything I wanted to play on the PlayStation 4. So I was jonesing, and I started to look around. Like when you're really desperate, you start to look for that next hit. Yeah. And the first thing I came across was Fate. A Grand Order. I'm a huge Fate head. Like I love the entire Fate series to the point where I used to edit wikis for Fate. Yeah, like Fate Extra. I was one of the main contributors for Nero Claudius, the Red Saber, the first Red Saber.
I saw Fate. Which one was that? The anime with the amazing
Unlimited Blade Works.
It was. I can't remember the name, but like all I remember is the action in that anime.
Yeah, but remember we started on the PSP games.
No, I'm talking about the anime.
No, you're probably thinking of either Unlimited Blade Works, Fate Zero.
Fate Zero.
Yeah, the original Fate stay that hasn't aged too well, but it's
Fate
okay.
Zero. I was like, hey, this is lit, bro.
Yeah. Now, so for me, big on that lore, love the whole type Moon World and stuff. So when I saw that there was a mobile game, because they haven't really released a game since some fighting game they released on the PSP way back when, and the last Fate Extra that was Japanese exclusive. So I was dying for some new Fate stuff. So I was like, you know what? Let me jump into this game. I see it's highly acclaimed, la-di-da. So it's Fate Grand Order. So I started playing it. Really good mobile game. I wouldn't call it the best mobile game to jump into when you're new into mobile games.
Is it time-based or it's more just hack and slash kind of?
Oh no, it's a full-on RPG, turn-based with a card system. Very big card system. So you utilize every turn, a character has a set number of cards that are drawn for them. and then each card represents an ability. So you've got what are known as burst cards, arts cards, and quick cards. So quick cards build like these stars known as critical stars. Arts cards build your noble phantasm, which is your super move, and burst cards are like the main damage. And then certain characters have got like they lean towards certain card types. Like you find this character has more burst cards than art cards.
More like an attacker and magic based.
So you find like some characters will always pull like 2 or 3 burst cards. Other characters will pull more quick cards. Things like that. Yeah, so you get really into it. There's a good support system, and I was really drawn into it. It's not the best looking 2D mobile game out there, but it's good enough, and that's how I got sucked in initially. So after that, I was like, all right. It's time to look at my favorite franchise. You know it, Final Fantasy. So I found that Dissidia Opera Omnia was released, and at the time it was about a year in. And that one was really good. The gacha is very different from... gacha is basically you getting characters randomly through basically loot boxes. Yeah. I know the taboo word. It's a mobile game.
Can you pay to get all those?
Yeah, you can, but the main gameplay loop is it's really, most of them are really grindy like traditional RPGs, which is pretty good. So for me, Dissidia Opera Omnia is my favorite because first off, you don't do gacha for the characters. All the characters are either released or you play what are known as lost chapters and you get the character. The only gacha are the weapons. And you can you just roll on the weapons or whatever, but the game is super generous on the paid currency. Like they give it to you for finishing the story. They give it when you're new. They just bombard you with
so
stuff.
It's not like the grind is terrible.
No, not at all. I literally have like a top tier team. I have never spent a dime on this game. I even stopped for 3 months, came back. I was still pretty okay. So among the gacha games, Dissidia Opera Omnia is my favorite. So I got sucked into that and started to look at more of these mobile games and began to dawn.
At this point, you're in deep now.
Now I'm gone. So now I started to look at everything and I discovered that we actually now have full-fledged MMOs. Did you know this?
That's what I was actually going to touch on. I was like, the genre of games now, like what have you found? Because I always, my experience with mobile gaming is you have the classic RPGs that you could have where it's like, okay, this was made as a console game and now it's ported, so you know the quality of the story and everything is there. But then there are those traditional, just like native mobile games where they don't really focus too much on the story and stuff. That was in the past. So I'm saying now, what is that like now?
Yeah, so mobile games have introduced a whole bunch of new systems. Funny enough, they have some of the best quality of life features you can find in gaming, especially for grinding and the like. So, for example, MMOs have been picking up on daily grind and what are known as auto grinds and stuff like that. I'm sure in World of Warcraft you've got these like pets can do things for you on your behalf and stuff like that. Heavily influenced by mobile games.
Really?
Yeah, they have a bunch of systems where they're called auto runs. Let's say you want a certain material. This is standard RPG stuff. It's not even mobile game stuff. But you want to keep doing the stage over and over again. Many mobile RPGs have an auto feature where you just tap it, maybe some have a resource that's tied to it, and it goes through the stage and the characters either do what you might have done when you played it before, or they use an AI system. And I found that one really, really good. Then on the MMO side, they're usually called auto MMOs because sometimes they play themselves, which is a bad thing, but that's because, touchscreens and like high-speed Twitch moment game to play.
And
it acts a bit laggy. So I find that sometimes it works, but I also find that it gets a bit boring. So that's why I think some of the big MMOs haven't really blown up. Surprisingly though, China has a huge market for this. Like they make billions upon billions from their mobile MMOs. And they're like fully fledged open world level things. We actually got Black Desert mobile recently.
Oh yes.
Played it. Plays amazingly. It also has it's less auto-y than the other ones. You have to play it manually, but it takes a bit of getting used to because it's touch-based. And Black Desert is a very action RPG. But when you see how like they optimize things from the PC game to try and bring it down to the mobile game, it's actually honestly impressive. Yeah.
Especially like I'm just thinking about that note. What about things like cloud gaming? Like how are they going to incorporate that? Like you have a phone, you have a mobile device. and they're like, we want you to be in these huge MMO worlds.
Yeah.
And then what if you're running off like the new I wouldn't talk about Stadia.
Yeah.
But you've seen like
Nvidia
and xCloud and so on. So wouldn't that be really cool to tie into like mobile, like really make MMOs mobile?
Yeah, I think mobile gaming is where they would streaming can make the biggest hit. I mean, look at Fortnite; it's translated amazingly well to mobile.
Fortnite is on mobile, right?
Yes, and it's full crossplay.
Call of Duty.
Full crossplay.
Full crossplay.
Yeah. If you want, you can play against the PC players. They will destroy you, but you can.
Yeah.
And that's all testament to their engine. But like Michael has said, with streaming, the mobile people are very prone. They will try new things. They're always looking for the next new thing, the next big hit. And every time a mobile game comes out that's new, it's always a big deal because people really want to see what the new gimmick is, what the new drive is. So streaming in itself, if they want to nail it big, I say they should target mobile because PC and console players, we're not about that life.
Yeah.
Mobile gaming, you accept the cuts when you're playing an always online thing because that's been there forever. And if you can get full-fledged, hyper-massive worlds with amazing graphics on this small device, it will blow up easily. And with 5G coming along, as long as it's not
5G is the end of the world, man.
Yeah. If 5G goes well and streaming goes well, best believe mobile is the first place to blow up.
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to touch on is that as much as we like to ignore mobile gaming, it is the highest grossing side of gaming, period. Yeah. It dwarfs PC and consoles almost 3 times over, you guys. With Fate Grand Order last year, I think in total has made close to 3-point-something billion since being released in 2017, guys. That's crazy. They made 160 million in December. PUBG Mobile made 150 million just for the month of January alone.
And then what would this do now, like to some of these AAA?
That's why we get these, the AAA industry, they're doing it the wrong way. These mobile games, they're getting better with their free-to-play side of things. The way it is now is that it's only the top players that spend a lot of money. New players in new mobile games,
they just want to
you get a good experience and they want you to become a pair, right? Like, they want a player to turn into a pair. That's the saying. That
they're going to keep the whales close.
Exactly. But because of that, the games are actually becoming better. So you find like you can enjoy the game up until like you're about to reach the upper echelons of like top tier PvP type stuff. That's when now you start to feel the paywalls and stuff like that. Unfortunately, console games, we're still back in 2015, 2013, where bombard you with cards. You can't upgrade your character from level 1 to level 2. Look at NBA 2K19 and freaking WWE. Those are like, no mobile game does that now. Like only the worst of the worst.
Even FIFA, don't forget FIFA.
Even FIFA itself is guilty of this. But you would find in the mobile versions, they'll bombard you with more free currency than the one you paid for in a console game. So it's a weird dichotomy. It's like they see the money they're making, but they don't take many of the lessons learned. Like the streamlined gameplay, the way you want to draw players in by constantly giving them a way to earn paid currency and stuff like that. Instead, you just hit them with paywall.
I know the mobile sector may be making more money, but are people spending more time on, and how long in general would you spend on a mobile game compared to say like your PlayStation 4? You'd
be surprised that the average person doesn't really think about time in the way we do, like when we're dividing time for gameplay and stuff. So you always have your mobile phone everywhere you go. Bathroom break, mobile phone. You're sitting bored at work, mobile phone. Now those hours add up. So you find that mobile players actually do spend like close to 5 to 8 hours on average on their phones. And those who play games can even spend anywhere from 4 to 12 hours just playing games all the time. Before you sleep, what are you going to look at?
Your phone. You sneak in a 45 minutes to an hour.
Exactly. So you find that the mobile players are actually sinking in a lot of time. And, as much as we hate to admit it, these mobile games actually might be getting us more console players because some of these games have versions on the mobile phone, but then, they hear about it, like Call of Duty. They hear, oh no, there's a Call of Duty version. And then they go and they want to experience the console one. You find that this person who's willing to spend $400-500 on this trash mobile game, he'll be like, oh wait, I can get a full-fledged console game, and he goes and gets himself a console. So we get that. And as much as everyone just keeps saying like, no, gaming is still on the uprise, we kind of are ignoring the fact that mobile games are getting like a whole bunch of people to actually become more gamer centric than before.
And to add to that, in terms of the number of hours played, what I've noticed, especially one of the initial reasons why a lot of these console investors and so on were worried that mobile gaming will be the new thing is because you find a lot of these Asian countries, Japan, China, and so on.
Yes.
A lot of people take like an hour commute on the train to get to and from work.
Yeah.
They're not driving, so what do? You sit and you're on your phone. So it's either social media or a lot of these handhelds, which is why you also find, like, for example, the 3DS and Switch have done so well in Japan. It's because you've got that time to sit down and whip it out.
Yeah.
And like Daniel's saying, everybody has a phone.
Yeah.
So it's the easiest way
in the famous words of Blizzard, don't you have a phone?
So I mean, for me, I'll ask this question. Like, there's the positives, there's the numbers and so on, but there's also, don't you think there's the dangers of mobile gaming because it's so accessible? There's that negative connotation that it also has where people are put in addiction loops. Like certain games won't. I mean, this is like some of the older ones, but like Candy Crush, where you can't play for a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
They make you have that addiction to the game. Like,
oh no, that's definitely, you're absolutely right. So unfortunately, mobile gaming is still the worst. Mobile gaming is still like the worst market when it comes to trying to milk nickel and dime consumers, like easily. You know, for every good mobile game out there, there's like 20 really horrible ones. And they have become, this games as a service thing is heavily inspired by mobile games because many mobile games require, they encourage you to log in daily. If you miss a day, you've got 7-day rewards. On almost all of the ones that I've played, they all have 7-day rewards. You miss a day, you're reset to start again.
oh wow.
Yeah, exactly.
That's madness.
Exactly. So every day you find someone who have to they just have to log in. Even if they won't do anything, they'll have to log in. And then you've got resource caps like in MMOs, but they're insanely stricter. And then they have these events that last for like 5 days a piece. Because they want you to spend money. They'll be like, oh no, this top tier unit is here, but it's only here for 5 days, and after he's gone, it's only coming back in the rerun next year. So if you miss out, you're missing out on the top meta gameplay, and you'll be stuck, playing the garbage old content and not enjoying yourself. And the majority of mobile games, they get you on that. So there's the daily loop is one of the dangerous parts of mobile gaming that I think could be made better. And the fact that it's so unregulated is just, it's sad. Like, only Dissidia Opera Omnia actually gives a warning amongst all of the ones I've played, where it tells you that, no, this game contains paid content. It's free, but it contains paid content, so please get parental consent before you think it. Every other one I've played, zero. It's just game starts straight into the game.
Come on in.
Jump in.
Next thing, you're being bombarded with, oh no, this sale is on, that sale is on.
You want some crack? Here you go.
Exactly.
I think it's funny because that's kind of where MMO games were at on like the PC space and so on, but it's gone through this weird like exodus. So people have gone, they're like, look, this rush for the end game thing has killed MMOs.
Yeah.
And a lot of developers now have started like realizing that to say, okay, no, you know what? Let's try change this because we're losing all of our player base.
Yeah.
So let's get these guys back to some extent, give them a proper experience, and we can still minimize how we try to monetize our platform.
Yeah, and that's what's happening with the top tier mobile games. You find that some of them are realizing that, you can't just keep burning people out. And like there's not an infinite supply of players. So you find the top games are beginning to find a decent balance between paid content and like free content and stuff like that. There's still some top games that are straight garbage. Don't even get it twisted because unfortunately mobile phones have an install base of over 1 point something billion. So that's a market. There will always be a whale out there for you to milk. But the really big games, they're getting better at this because they are looking at it as rather a new mobile game is very difficult to make a hit. It's like when
and there are a lot of them, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like a diamond doesn't pop out a year later, they die. So you find that these guys who have their big hits are now kind of getting to the point where they're now trying to make it a sustainable
thing.
Rather than burning people out. Unfortunately, still a dime a dozen rip-offs, and they will probably remain there for the longest time. But they're getting better, and sadly, thankfully, maybe games as a service has gone through this horrible period in console gaming. Maybe the console players will learn, the console devs will learn that they don't have the luxury of a supermassive install base to be doing such things and try and burn out players.
World of Warcraft is an example.
Yeah, exactly.
They
were hemorrhaging players.
Yeah. Well, like now we've been around for like 20 plus years, and then there's that confidence.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, we're here, but then now it's like, okay, wait.
Yeah.
Like people are leaving.
Yeah.
Our game
in mass.
So they just reset it. They just released WoW Classic.
Do they bother too much as well? Because in the end, when they make so many sales from the initial game and then they add an online aspect, I'm talking, let's say, in console variations, even though they've adapted the whole games as a service thing and they're going to try and milk as much as you can, do they really care that much because they've already sold enough units of the game itself?
I actually think on that point, it's a really good question, because I think it depends. When you want your game to go, like you look at GTA 5, you had your units that were sold as a single player game and so on. But when you have those elements, so you want it to be like open world, MMO type multiplayer, then you're also going to be spending money on servers or teams to maintain that thing. So to some extent, you do need that new money, because those are monthly bills, that you're going to be paying.
True.
So even if you sold initially, that was maybe towards
lots of units.
Yeah, your units were sold to pay for
the
development of the game. Now you need money to pay for running this online game, creating new content, managing it, the servers and so on. So I think like the approach, like I said, I've really been looking into MMOs so much these days, and I think especially like it also ties into the mobile side of things, is if you can monetize properly and have, I think, the cloud aspect, where you now increase, you already have like a foothold of a billion plus people. And if you're cloud gaming, like you're saying, that's even more people that, it doesn't matter what phone you have per se, you can now play this game. So you can really crank up the quality and then just be smart about how you monetize and so on.
And also, because you don't have to build for specific hardware requirements, your game modes can just go crazy, like, anime, isekai level type of things. And that's the potential I see for streaming. I think Stadia, if they had an MMO that does something that no other MMO does,
Stadia needed
they could
an
have had
MMO.
a hook.
Yeah.
They could have hooked us in. Like if they said, this world you can destroy everything exactly, and you can do whatever, people would have been more invested, because there's no way you can experience that on any platform. But not sell me the game I owned from 2014 again.
Now I need the internet.
Please.
And it's even funny that you brought up Stadia, because the fact that they are just Google based, and you when you think Google, you're just gonna think internet. You'd have thought that they would have come up with some sort of an MMO that is not necessarily expensive, but just keeps you going and keeps you hooked. But it seems like they're still diverging into this
the traditional streaming.
Yeah. And we already know how that fight has gone on with Nintendo, PlayStation, and Xbox.
None of the base console players care.
There are already bodies on the ground,
plenty.
Yeah.
And then I was also thinking about like the esports, for example. Like, how do you think, like the trend of mobile? Like, I think we don't really see mobile esports per se. And what do you think about the
So it's very funny. In Africa, we don't see mobile esports as a big thing, but it's actually blowing up in other parts of the world. Call of Duty Mobile has esports. While I say Africa, I can't really speak for all of our African countries, because it seems Nigeria is getting into it, or West Africa in general. They're becoming really big into the esports scenes, and one of the fastest ways they're jumping in is not through like expensive hardware, because hardware is expensive for us here. But they're getting through phones and stuff, and there's like a couple of teams. I've been following them on Twitter. We'll try and post the links. I'll send them to the guys and we'll show them up. And you can see how these guys are slowly but surely building a community, building an active esports scene, but it's based around mobile and not like the console traditional FPS type of things. So it seems that there is actually a big esports market for mobile games, because we have mobile MOBAs, we have mobile shooters, which are pretty decent, I guess. And like there are these, we even have some mobile fighting games, few and far between, but then there's also the card battlers. So like, for example, Dota Auto Chess has really popped off in China, and it's becoming a big deal, and it's now making a lot of money. The prize pools are growing constantly. So mobile esports are growing. They may not be as crazy large as the current PC esports, but I have noticed that for many emerging markets, it's a very quick way to enter the esports market because, you know, phones are easily accessible and it's something that we should actually look into, even locally here. You know, we could build a community around it. Someone, I recall, a few years back went to Korea because of one of these driving games. They were invited. I can't remember who specifically.
Oh, but Korea is pretty much the birthplace, right?
Exactly. Yeah. There was someone who was picked from one of our, I don't know if it's in Central or Southern Africa. They were picked for a mobile game, for a driving mobile game, and they were sent all the way across abroad.
Was this before or after the virus time?
No, wait. Yeah, way before. Hopefully that nonsense will be sorted. But yeah, so mobile game esports, very booming scene, coming up really fast, and it will be a very interesting thing to keep an eye on as we go forward.
Yeah. Does I mean, I'm thinking about this now, but when it comes to mobile esports games, do you, the phone that you're using, the speeds, the internet speed? I know it's the same as a PC, but I mean, with PC, once you're all in the same frame, it seems pretty much on a level playing field.
Yeah.
But then with phones, it seems like
Different
from a technological perspective, it's
a bit backwards.
Yeah.
And that's where you have to give credit where credit is due. Their optimizations are quite impressive.
Oh yeah.
Like, I'm pretty sure I play with people from the United States in co-op games. It doesn't feel like it.
It doesn't feel like
because they have so many limitations. As much as phones are powerful these days, they still have battery limitations, heating limitations, and the like, and all those things need to be
phone calls.
And phone calls. And the like. So all those
yeah.
things need to be considered when you're building these games.
Yeah.
And the fact that these games are running that well with these internet connection is a testament to how accessible they've made themselves and how, you know, like optimized and really good they've become. Because if they didn't run that well, they wouldn't be as popular as they are.
True. I mean, even talking about that, I mean, look, we've gone through a lot of games, and the most popular obviously are the World of Warcrafts, and you've got the Dotas, and we're even talking about some of these games even going into the Olympics. But now let's even move into the fighting games. Why are fighting games on the esports scene not necessarily
Big.
To put it in. I mean, people have compared them to like the UFC of sports. It's like people love them, but not as much as NBA. And I mean, look, the list of the most popular fighting games that I have here is Street Fighter, Dragon Ball Fighter Z, Taken, King of Fighters, Metal Gear Solid, MK11, Guilty Gear, Dead or Alive 6, Soul Calibur, and Samurai.
Smash Brothers.
Yes.
Oh yeah, and Samurai Showdown.
You know, for me, I look at it. I used to be like really into the scene, like esports fighting games. Like back then, I was like really into Marvel vs. Capcom Ultimate.
Yeah.
And like I remember in the period like 2011 to like 2014, 15, the scene was very active because that game was huge. Street Fighter has always been there because they get support from Capcom.
Yeah.
But like Marvel vs. Capcom is one of those things. When you look at fighting game communities, they normally start from like a central place people come to play on weekends, neighborhood, then it grows. And I saw what happened to Marvel vs. Capcom 3 was like it became really big. Like we all know we have EVO, which is the biggest annual
fighting game.
Yeah, in the US.
A lot of games have come out of fighting games. Have come out.
That's the problem. I think the problem with fighting games is already there's a bit of a disconnect between casual play and trying to be pro at the game. Whereas some of the games, you know, like StarCraft, for example, which is a huge esports game, and Dota, those have learning curves.
Steep learning curves. Like fighting games are way easier to get into than in Dota, but then they're more popular, which is very baffling.
Yeah, because I think it's about the organization around it.
Yeah.
You look at a game like Dota, for example, and you look at how many tournaments there are, how much sponsorship there is. There's more of a drive to go into the space that's already set. Whereas a lot of fighting games, it tends to be, a game will be hot, like I mentioned, Marvel vs. Capcom.
But it's the community.
Yeah, it will be hot, the community will keep it, and then, like Marvel vs. Capcom 3 Ultimate, they stopped supporting the game, there was no updates.
The developers.
Yes. And then people will be like, okay, on to the next one.
Exactly.
one.
So the thing is, I think apart from Street Fighter, which I think is the one they're trying to do correctly, a lot of these games are like, come in this year, come out that year, come in this year.
Because the developers don't have the capacity.
Yeah, they're not making it, like, trying to aim for that esports market.
I would like to add on. So what I think also hampers fighting games from blowing up into the esports scene, because you would think fighting games, very easy to understand. A person walking by could watch the screen, instantly pick, I'm supporting that guy, and get invested just like that. So it's supposed to be easy and very popular, right? But somehow it isn't, and these very basically niche games are super big. It's super baffling. But what I think is accessibility. All fighting games have to be bought. And fighting games don't have real life franchises tied to them like sports games do. Sports games, people watch sports games for free. They're already invested in their soccer teams. So casual players can get into it. So you get these sports game tournaments that have decent prize pools and the like. But fighting games, once this fighting game is done this year,
feels like a niche.
It's in the bin, and the next fighting game we have to start from scratch. New characters, new people, new favorites, new
styles.
You need to build up the love and care for it. And that's what I'll say. Taken performs very well compared to other ones
because it's been around
and the characters are basically the same. And so you find that people, and the gameplay is generally the same since Taken 3. So you find people generally they don't really go off Taken. You find the people that played Taken in 2000 are still the same people that play Taken today. But the problem is accessibility. Many of these big games that are like that are super popular now are free. When have you played a free fighting game?
Oh yeah, you gotta pay.
I mean, we don't have big franchises outside of the game to support the game, like FIFA and things like that. It's just a standalone game. What the niche games have done is they've made themselves free. All the characters are free, or they're on a roulette. Anyone can try it at any time, which means you get more casual players, which means you get a bigger player base. Bigger player base translates into more views, and you create that ecosystem. Fighting games haven't done that. We haven't evolved. We're literally still in the same stage we were in 2011.
I think also another thing is quite interesting in terms of esports fighting games is, again, this is not to shoot down, but I think the level of complexity with fighting games is mostly
almost definitely.
It's not as much. It's a bit of an invisible complexity. Like if you watch a fighting game right now, like a top tier Street Fighter match, the things that are happening there's complexity, but it's very naked to the eye. Like
it's very nuanced.
Yes, very nuanced. Like your hitbox. You want to have you want to get someone out of a stun, or you want to go high low, or all these different things. Your command grabs, and those are things where it's like, okay, you could get those things, but then when you look at a game like Rainbow Six, or a game like League of Legends, or whatever. There are so many things that are happening
there's a lot going on
that people can now get invested. Like, yo, you know what? I really want to understand this thing. Or going. So in terms of watching, like just watching it, if you are not already into the fighting game per se, it's not as entertaining as they're saying. If someone was to say, okay, look, here's a Rainbow Six 3v3.
I agree completely. One of the problems many fighting games have is unrelenting pressure to the point where the match becomes very slow. So, for example, games like Dota, Counter-Strike, you get these impressive plays where this dude is bobbing and weaving, and it's instant highs.
Those moments of
the
brilliance.
moment-to-moment gameplay is very heated. Dota, you have Dota and League of Legends. You have moments of slow pacing, but when a fight breaks off, even if the individual watching can't really grasp what's happening, they understand excitement and they can try and follow one individual and keep it up. Fighting games, outside of like the best players, it tends to feel very rhythmic and slow, and like people tend to play it very safe in fighting games. You don't have the more visceral moment-to-moment stuff. And when you do get the pressure, a syndrome that many fighting games have right now is that the pressure keeps going. Fighter Z has this problem. Taken has this problem. You hit someone with a counter hit, and now you've got 16 hits carrying someone all the way to the wall. And that's not what people want to see. They want someone to have a chance to make a comeback, because comebacks make it interesting.
I also just on this point, because it's really...
No, I'm enjoying this more than it should be.
But on this point, and I also bring out Daniel, because this actually works with you in the sense of when you look at like the scale of creativity in these games. With a fighting game, they will be like people will be creating in the early stages and so on
Yes.
to figure out the meta.
And then it stagnates.
And then it's if you watch like this character fight this character, you buy
the same fight.
You know the fight, you know the combos, you know what they're looking for. But like I'll bring in Daniel for example, something like Dota for example. Dota, the pros could be doing something. You alone, like you without going, I mean, I know people know the game that much, but there's a character that you said, hey, this character would work well with this item. And no one was doing that.
Yeah.
No one was putting that item on the character. And then, 6 months later, everyone's doing it. So it's always, some of these games, the things are always evolving. So it makes it exciting to keep checking what's happening.
Exactly.
And then your favorite player might go against the norm in a match. You'd be like, why is he doing that?
Yeah.
And then it works. Everyone's like, oh snap, you can do that. Like I remember in Enchantress with the Force stuff, the first time they're like, this is not something you do. You don't do that.
It's
and now
not normally done, and it's
now it's official. This is how you do it.
And unfortunately, or should I say fortunately, sports games have that moment to moment down to a T. No two matches are ever the same because of just how real life sports translate really well into video game sports. So it's always very different, and I think that might be one of the things.
I guess that's why Pro Evo has gone through the esports direction, because I think they've also noticed that FIFA's got the presentation and the unit sales down.
Exactly.
And they've got Ultimate Team, which sells a shit ton.
Yeah.
But we're also at a point where, like, can you make a game that will allow people to do whatever they want and win spectacularly?
Yeah. But then, like, all right, so instead of pointing out the downsides, like, what do we think fighting games can do? Like, for you, I'm not sure if you play.
Oh, no, I don't play many fighting games.
Exactly. So what do you think could be, like, in your opinion, what do you think could be done to improve viewership and like just because it's very easy for someone to watch a fighting game.
That's
but
right.
how do you keep them invested?
I think fighting games have also reached the point where like they have to figure out an element that completely changes it.
Innovate?
Yeah. It has to completely change. I know the side-by-side fighting is very technical, and when you meet another profession when you meet another professional in that game, it brings up a level of excitement.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you also need the game itself to change, and that's not enough. Meeting another pro, I think, is enough to increase the viewership. There has to be something that has a complete dynamic change, and I don't know if fighting games are in the point in game development world where that can happen. I'm not sure. I could be wrong.
Michael?
I think going on what you said as well, in terms of if you want a game to work this way as a fighting game, it needs to be built from the ground up as an esports game.
Yeah.
I think they need to stop making the game as a single player
game.
If you make the game say, okay, look, this game is gonna be like free or whatever, but it's gonna have systems to it. So there'll be different gear sets or whatever you could equip on a character that could affect, and then you even get to the point where maybe you have a fighting game that is like 2v2. The second player could be doing something to the first player who's playing. So now you're incorporating that team aspect that when this guy plays, this guy support, he does this or does this. Stuff, something like that.
Different elements. It could be even be backup or call someone else, and
so
it
go
just
back
has
to the drawing board.
Even just evolving the way stages work, because stages have been the same since the beginning of fighting games. Like we've barely had any difference in how like stage interaction works with the game, and all these sports games, mobile games, shooters live and die by their maps.
Exactly.
On top of the skill of the player, the map will kill you. But stages in fighting games, it's flat plane.
Side by side.
Oh, you might drop in the ground.
It's something has to change.
So I think they need to add more dynamics to make the games less one-tone, one-sided, because it just makes it boring in the long run. Like he said, like you can't wait for a patch every time. And also, he's absolutely right. When a strong character is strong in a fighting game and they have a strong combo, it's very different from other games where the skill of the player can come in and they can just bring a new character with a new gimmick who does a thing, maybe he jumps off the wall in a certain way and he wins. Doesn't usually happen in fighting games. So
maybe in the next generation, right?
Hopefully.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed.
Right, I think that about wraps it up for this episode. I thoroughly enjoyed that more than I thought.
Educative, man.
Yeah. I learned a lot about fighting games today.
Yeah.
Anyway, so as usual, thanks for joining me, Daniel.
Pleasure,
And Michael was here with me.
Yeah.
And we hope that you enjoyed this episode. You should follow us on Twitter and tune in for the next episode. Hope you enjoyed it.
See ya.